Persuasive rationales depend on well-reasoned arguments. Arguments are the means by which a particular claim or interpretation is rationally justified. The intent of an argument is to persuade. In a rationale, the author's argument persuades the reader of a proposition, the claim or the main point, by providing reasons to support it. The supporting reasons are called premises. The rationale for a research study is comprised of a series of logical arguments. Arguments fail when the premises on which they depend on are false or unreliable. Therefore, premises generally require supporting verifiable evidence. Each premise must be sustained by at least one citation from the literature. So for every argument, there has to be at least one research citation at the end of it, one article citation at the end of it. And then the reader must judge whether the arguments are adequately supported for the purpose of the study and the specific research question. So the reader judges, are these arguments supported? In an argument by example, an observation is used. So anecdotal evidence based on experience of what has happened, as opposed to a research observation made under planned, systematic, and controlled circumstances. Anecdotal evidence is not trustworthy. It should not be in research studies because it is not verifiable. There is deductive reasoning, which is the basic form of valid reasoning. Deductive reasoning, think deduction. It starts out with a general statement or hypothesis. It examines the possibility to reach a specific logical conclusion and is used in scientific method to test hypotheses and theories. In deductive reasoning, if something is true of a class of things in general, then it is true for all members of that class. For example, all men are mortal. Harold is a man. Therefore, Harold is mortal. So it was deduced that Harold is mortal because all men are mortal and Harold is a man. For deductive reasoning to work, the hypothesis must be correct. If the assumption all men are mortal was incorrect, then we couldn't say that Harold as a man is mortal. So the conclusion is logical and true. It is possible to come to a logical conclusion even if the generalization is not true. If the generalization is wrong, the conclusion may be logical, but it may also be untrue. For example, all bald men are grandfathers. Harold is bald. Therefore, Harold is a grandfather. That's valid logically, but it's not true because the original statement is false. Inductive reasoning is the opposite of deductive reasoning. It makes broad generalizations from specific observations. Even if all the premises are true in a statement, inductive reasoning allows for the conclusion to be false. Here's an example. Harold is a grandfather. Harold is bald. Therefore, all grandfathers are bald. So it sort of worked in the reverse. Conclusions do not follow logically from statements. Inductive reasoning has its place in scientific method. Inductive reasoning is to form hypotheses and theories, and deductive reasoning is to apply the theories to specific situations. So let's say that again. Inductive reasoning is used to help form hypotheses and theories. Deductive reasoning is used to apply theories to specific situations. There are also fallacies. Fallacies are errors in arguments. Arguments are invalid or unsound when the premises are incorrect or unsupported, or when there is an error in the logic reasoning. There are many varieties of fallacies. Fallacies by belief, none of this belongs in research. Fallacies of reason, which is an appeal to belief, emotion, or popularity. More scientific research is based on evidence. Emotionally volatile words suggest personal bias according to sex, culture, ethnicity, disorder, disability, and are not appropriate for arguments or in technical writing. Likewise, an appeal to tradition or novelty does not sufficiently advance an argument. Newer is not necessarily better, nor or ideas or practices better by sole virtue of their longevity. So just because a theory has been around for a long time, that doesn't mean it is the best. And just because something is newer, it doesn't mean it's the best. That's not the basis of scientific research. There's also fallacies of distraction, which is the inclusion of irrelevant information, the so-called red herring, that diverts the reader from the point that's being made, or presenting a false dilemma, whereby only a few options or possibilities are noted. Fallacies of induction. Arguments may be undermined by the use of unfounded stereotypes, hasty generalizations, or an unrepresentative sample, or a poor analogy.